Today I have Alex Beattie. She's the force behind the Divorce Planner. It's a brand that's all about simplifying divorce prep, providing financial planning tools, and offering valuable resources. Alex founded this platform recognizing the need to separate the emotional side of divorce from the business side. Her work has helped countless individuals regain their confidence and financial clarity during a challenging time. Recognizing the need to make divorce planning affordable, her products like the monthly budget calculator, what to gather worksheet, and the list your assets log provide you low-cost ways to take control of your divorce. Please give a warm welcome to Alex. Thank you so much again for joining me.
Yay, I'm so happy to be here to have this conversation with you. And hello to everybody who's joining us.
This is so helpful because when it comes to divorce, you have two major issues. In its simplest form, it's a breakdown of children related issues and money.
Yeah.
And money is a big part of divorce. So I really appreciate you taking the time. I know this is a passion of yours. And so we're going to talk about financial readiness, assessing your financial situation, and figuring out whether you're ready for divorce, how to get ready, budgeting for divorce, creating a budget to navigate, and also asset and debt evaluation, right? People need to figure out where they are, where they are likely to be post-divorce. And so let's get right into it. Let's start with financial readiness. So Alex, what can you tell us about getting ready to assess your financial situation to figure out whether you are ready to make that leap and make this big decision to move forward?
You just laid out so much stuff that I'm excited to dig in with you on. And first and foremost, I want to say, I know firsthand, like hearing everything and everything we're going to talk about and what you just brought up is so important. And it can sound so overwhelming when you're on the precipice of a big change. So whoever is joining us or watching, just take a deep breath. We're going to go through it point by point. I know it sounds overwhelming. That's why I created the divorce planner. But there are, one of the most important things that you need to do is assess your financial realities before taking any steps forward. Finances happen to be one of the biggest triggers, right, in the divorce process for anybody, as well as you mentioned, if you have kids, that's the other, right, that you have an emotional reaction to both. And yet, if you're going to go through the divorce process, you have to prepare for the business side of it. And they're two very different things. So first and foremost, being able to make sure that you have a really granular understanding of what it costs to live your life before you even start the process is a game changer. And it's imperative to have in hand because your finances are going to change. That's just the fact of life. If you're going from a two-income household to one after divorce, or perhaps somebody was a stay-at-home parent or was working, in a capacity that, they weren't making as much as the other person, you're going to be making financial choices throughout the divorce process. And unless you have an accurate accounting, how can you make, the right choice and anticipate what the changes are going to be after, right? You really have to have the math in hand.
So those are great points. And I think connected to something you said earlier is getting ready to tackle financial readiness also involves emotional readiness, right? Because you need to be able to step back, put the emotion aside, and kind of take a cold and objective look at your numbers. So, what do you recommend for people that are struggling to separate the two, to separate the emotions from the numbers? What do you suggest they do?
Okay, that's a great question. First of all, acknowledging that there is an emotional process in addition to kind of the business process is really important because you don't want to, push one down in favor of the other because things get messy that way. If you don't deal with those big feelings, they're going to manifest usually during your divorce negotiation, and you don't want to be in that position. You want to be in a position to be proactive and not reactive. So that's one of the most important things. By being able to kind of address your big feelings in the appropriate manner, whether it is through journaling or therapy or maybe a local support group, those are all valuable, as well as doing things like get out of your house and go for a walk, clear your head. And then separately, give yourself really practical things that you need to get done before moving forward so that you kind of have your ducks in a row, right? Before coming to meet with a divorce attorney like you. And I have this all over my social media for anybody wondering, as well as my website. Being able to have every document and statement in hand organized so you have an understanding of what your accounts are, what your assets are, what your debts are, as well as what I just talked about, like a really detailed financial accounting of what it costs to live your life every month. To have all of those things in hand by doing the legwork and preparing in advance, you can hand it over then to your divorce attorney or your mediator and be able to start being an active participant in the process rather than bury your head in the sand, which I see a lot from people. And it's important for you to do that because nobody cares about the details of your life like you do. And now is this time to really invest. I know it's an emotionally overwhelming time. People get to a point where they're at a crossroads and thinking, oh, okay, we're either going to separate and divorce, or maybe we're going to continue to work it out. It's at that point, if I catch you at that point, that I want you to go to my blog and start looking through all of the posts I have to really make sure that if no matter which way your relationship goes, you're prepared either way. That's all it is.
Thank you, Alex. That's very helpful. I'm gonna take a left and ask you about budgeting for divorce. And this is such a difficult issue to assess and tackle. And I'll tell you, in my experience, what makes it so difficult is that it's very hard to figure out early on, in many cases, what it's going to cost to get through a divorce, right? I've had many people come to me and think it's going to be smooth sailing and quick and efficient, and it's the opposite, and
Mm,
vice versa.
yeah.
And so, what can you tell us about budgeting for divorce? Having someone try to figure out what this is going to cost, what they have to invest.
That's a great question. Considering the fact the median average for a divorce in the United States as of, I think it was 2019, 2020, was $15,000. Being able to be prepared so that you're not spending that much moving forward is always the best position to be in. So, how do you do that? First of all, I actually have a blog post on my website about the most overlooked expenses during the divorce process. For anybody who's jumping on, please check it out. But the actual cost of divorce itself is a part of that. I think a lot of people don't plan. They just think they're going to get a divorce and they don't realize, look, every email, every phone call, every sit down, those are all going to be billed to you, which is why I'm always like standing on my soapbox saying get all the admin stuff prepared in advance so that your attorney can get to work, but then also so that you can cut down on those billable hours, number one, because you don't want to be spending $15,000 on a divorce. I think, my whole position is the more that you're in a powerful position to lead whatever the divorce judgment is going to be, as opposed to putting a judge in charge of figuring out what the outcome's going to be, the better position you're in. And that takes a lot of focus and a lot of clarity moving forward, which goes back to the emotional side. And whenever I'm working with clients, and it's all, again, like I have a worksheet that people can download on my website about how to separate the emotional side of divorce from the business side. You want to make sure, again, that you are making decisions and that you're talking to your attorney about things that are more practical and business minded and not feelings, right? Like, Bill, I don't want anybody coming to you and talking to you like you're a therapist, because you're going to charge them like a divorce attorney. You're supposed to. You're not a therapist.
Right.
But, it's like there are so many expenses that go into a divorce, especially if, both parties are going to lawyer up, and then it kind of starts a back and forth. It's a negotiation. That's the big headline. I want everybody to remember. Divorce is a big negotiation. I think most people aren't familiar with that process. I would assume, like most people in their everyday life don't negotiate in that way. So being able to really understand making the most of your time so that you're not spending at the top of the divorce process budget, and being clear about what your goals are going in gives you a target to hit when you're in the negotiation process and when you're talking to your divorce attorney, really.
And I can say in my experience, one factor, or it's actually a couple of factors wrapped into one, that is a real issue, and I think people need to think carefully about and budget accordingly, is you have to look at who is on the other side. Is
Mm.
your spouse someone who is reasonable, rational, stable? And is that person hiring an attorney who is reasonable, rational, and stable?
Yeah.
Right? And it can go wrong on either of those two issues, or either on either of those two fronts. So that's also something to consider when you're trying to figure out how much time this will take, how much energy you're going to have to put into it, and how much you're going to pay. It really matters what the state of mind is on the other side.
It's so true. And I think one of the biggest things people really need to remember is whatever your dynamic with your soon to be ex has been in your marriage is going to be the same dynamic that you have through the divorce process. And what I mean by that is if you're the one who's been always making plans and pushing things forward, that's going to be your role still in the divorce process. Don't expect all of a sudden that other party's going to change. I also feel like there is this misnomer, even in the most amicable of divorces, it's still a negotiation, and it's not up to the other person to look out for your best interests. You're the only one who can do that. And I think there's this, mistake, that very common mistake, and then people hopefully recover, of like, well, my spouse is just going to take care of me in this process. Look, they're not out to get you, but the whole focus is you need to be figuring out what's in your best interest moving forward and negotiate from that perspective. And you don't have, there's no room necessarily for anything else because it is a conversation. You're negotiating back and forth. So you can't expect somebody else to be negotiating both sides in for your benefit.
And that's so true. Don't be naive and
Yeah.
think that your spouse is looking after you. When it comes
Yeah.
to money and a split, it doesn't mean that they're going to try to do you wrong, but
No,
do not assume that they are doing what's best for you. So
that's exactly
great.
right. Because,
Yep, great.
I'm
Go ahead.
sorry, the financial part of it is so triggering for both parties. I think a lot of people go into the divorce process thinking, well, I just want what's fair. And as you know, my friends, in the law community, they view the word fair as the F word because in divorce, equity is the name of the game. And what feels fair to one party feels very unfair to another party. So,
Fair is subjective, for
yes,
sure.
exactly. And so that goes back to why is it important to do financial planning before? Because money is a tricky subject and it is triggering, and you can't go back and renegotiate your divorce once the judgment is done. It's that old adage of like measure twice, cut once. I have a monthly budget calculator on my website that it walks people through everything and it does the math for you. Because look, I came to this work from a very personal place. I was somebody who went through a divorce. I applied all my skills from my, business career to the divorce process and found that it worked. And so being able to take the kind of the overwhelming anxiety that goes with preparing for a divorce out of somebody else's experience is my jam, which is why I created the monthly budget calculator. Because I know a lot of people hear like, oh, money or budget, and they freeze up. I got you. Just check the website. Don't worry about it.
And I checked myself, and these products are very, very reasonably priced.
Oh,
So
thank you.
thank you. You're providing a great service for people out there.
Well, I really appreciate that. Thank you so much for saying that. I just know, again, firsthand how anxiety provoking this whole process is, even in the most amicable of situations. And the last thing anybody needs is to be spending more money on it. So I purposefully made sure that all of my like social media and my blog is filled with exactly what you should be doing for free and resources. You have a tiny bit of a budget. I have digital tools, download them. Yes, they are under $20. And if you want to work one-on-one with me, I'm available. I just want people to do this no matter what budget range they're in.
Thank you, Alex. And so let's wrap this up with asset and debt evaluation. So important, right?
Yeah.
What are these people going to walk away with? What is life going to look like post-divorce.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about asset and debt valuation that people need to consider?
It's all important. The last thing you want to do is get caught fighting over some lumpy chair that your Uncle Brian gave you during the divorce. Do you know what I mean? So being able to log your assets and really understand what their value is, more often than not, our everyday things around us, that's going to be a garage sale price. You need to figure out who bought what, when, is it prior to marriage, during marriage? Is there sentimental value attached? For high ticket items like pieces of art, jewelry, firearms, those things are going to need boats. They need to be professionally appraised. Your debts, please make sure to log all of your debts in because in most cases, married couples are going to have to split that as well. So it's all a part of the negotiation. And don't forget also to add up things like frequent flyer miles or hotel points. Those are all cash value. I know it sounds like, oh my God, it's so many details. It is so many details because you're separating two lives. But, these things are of value. You have to figure out how to split them up because I have seen situations where one spouse is like, I just am going to start over, whatever. And then a year later, they're like, what the hell did I do to myself? Like, I just put myself in the worst position that I can't dig myself out of. So having an accurate understanding of what is joint, what belongs to both parties, what was yours prior, which I think people also fumble the ball on, which I'm talking about all the time, is if you had a retirement plan that you started before your divorce, and let's say you had $10,000 in there before the date of your marriage, make sure to make a note of that. You know what I mean? Anything that
Absolutely.
during your marriage, of course, you're going to have to look at an equitable split, but that's significant to be able to leave out and for your spouse as well to make sure that's done. It sounds like, I get this sometimes this comment of like, oh, people who are going through a divorce just shouldn't have gotten married. Nobody goes into a marriage thinking they're going to get a divorce. But the truth of the matter is, the divorce is a business. It's a business negotiation, and it's not romantic because you signed a piece of paper. It's a legal proceeding that you have to go through. So there's nothing romantic about it, and you have to get really granular about all those details. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, thank you so much, Alex. So, can you tell people where they can find you, how you can help? I know you mentioned some products here and that you do offer some one-to-one help, but go ahead, please tell people where they can find you.
You're so nice. I would love to. So I'm the divorce planner here on TikTok. And then my website is www.thedivorceplanner.net. You can find everything there. My blog, I have a shop with digital tools that you can download and they walk you through how to organize all of your paperwork and statements, how to log in your assets. I actually have a bundle that's called the Get Organized Duo, and it's the What Together worksheet as well as the list your assets, which has a log as well as a spreadsheet. So again, it's kind of like hiring a personal trainer when you do one-on-one work with me, because I will give you a very detailed game plan after our coaching sessions, as well as all the digital products. So it's kind of like a paint by numbers. Oh, I plug this in. Oh, I do this. Oh, I need to ask these questions. So if even if you have no budget, if you don't want to access the digital tools for whatever reason, fine. Look through all my social media. I tell you everything to do. I know. So those are all the places you can find me. There's also a link in my bio that's a link tree that has everything too.
It sounds like such a cost-effective way to reduce stress, to simplify, to organize. So thank you so much for sharing with us. Thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. This was a great conversation. And thanks to everybody who joined us.
All right. Bye, Alex. Have a good
Bye,
one.
everybody. Thank you, Bill.